All right, now we're going to get into rhombus, kites, and trapezoids and finding their area and perimeter. Okay, so the area, the first one we're going to go over is a rhombus. Okay, and the area of a rhombus is 1/2 times diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. And the perimeter, because all the sides are the same, is the same as a square. So we'll just multiply one side by 4. Okay, so I have completed the first example for you guys. So diagonal 1, it tells us that it is 24. So diagonal, this part is 24. So something we know in rhombus is that the diagonals are bisected. So we know that these parts of the diagonals will be the same. So that's why diagonal 1 has a value of 24 plus 24, which is 48. In order to find diagonal 2, though, I have to use Pythagorean theorem. And when I use Pythagorean theorem, I have to do 24 squared plus b squared equals 25 squared. Okay, and I've highlighted the triangle in blue. So you have to realize that the triangles in all these shapes that we're using, that it's possible for us to use Pythagorean theorem in special right triangles when they give us the fact that it's a right triangle. So being able to have Pythagorean theorem and special right triangles in our back pocket is very important. When we solve out the Pythagorean theorem, we get the square root of 49, and the square root of 49 is 7. So the diagonal, the whole diagonal, is 7 plus 7, which is 14. So when I go to find the area, I'm going to plug in what I know. The formula is 1/2 times diagonal 1, which is 48, times diagonal 2, which is 14. And I get 336. When I go to find the perimeter, all I have to do is take one of the sides and multiply it by 4. Because the side length is 25, our answer is 100. Okay, so in this one, so diagonal 1, it doesn't matter which one's diagonal 1 or which one's diagonal 2. It's not very specific. Okay, but diagonal 1 I have highlighted in pink, and it's 5 plus 5, which is 10. Remember, it's the whole diagonal. It's not just that part. Okay, whereas diagonal 2 is 2 plus 2, which is 4. So because we know both of our diagonals, I can go ahead and find the area. So it's 1/2 times 10 times 4. 10 times 4 is 40. 40 times 1/2, or divided by 2, is 20. Okay, the one thing I cannot find right now is perimeter, because I don't know what the outside is. I don't know what one side of my rhombus is. So I have to do Pythagorean theorem. So if I'm looking at this, this is the right triangle that I should notice and kind of identify. So it's 2 squared plus 5 squared equals c squared. 2 times 2 is 4. 5 times 5 is 25. 25 plus 4 is 29. And take the square root of 29, which is, interestingly, 29, 5.38, or we can just say 5.4. Okay, so since I know one side now, I can use my formula for S, which is 4 times 5.4, which is 21.5. All right, so like this one, this is where the special right triangles are going to come into play. So diagonal 1 I have is as 6, because remember, diagonals are bisectors of each other, so that side is also 3. But because of this 60-degree angle, I know that I have some constants to write down. There is a pattern when it comes to the sides of a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Okay, so if this angle is 60 degrees, this one is 30. The value of each side is as followed. So across from the 30-degree angle will always be x. Across from 60 will be x times the square root of 3. And across from the hypotenuse is, or across from the 90-degree angles, which is on the hypotenuse, is 2x. So because the 3 is across from 30, that means x equals 3. Okay, so this means diagonal 2 is 3 times the square root of 3 times 2. So there's 2 of them. Okay, so that, because 3 times the square root of 3 is just this part right here alone. So I need 2 of those. So the value, let's see, the square root of 3 times 3. So just the value of this side is 5.19. Okay, or 5.2 really. Okay, so if I have 2 of those, I have 5.2 times plus 5.2. So I have 10.4. Times 6. All right, so now I can find the area. So it's 1/2 times 6 times 10.4. 6 divided by 2, and you should get 31.2. Perimeter. So notice how the perimeter is the outside of the rhombus, but it's also the diagonal of our little right triangle that we have right here. Okay. So remember, its value is 2x. So, well, if x is the value of 3, we have to plug 3 in right there. So it's 2 times 3, which is 6. So our perimeter is 4 times 6 again. So 24 units. All right, kites. So kite has the same area of a rhombus. So it's 1/2 times diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. Well, diagonal 1, because the shorter diagonal is bisected, is 9 plus 9, so it's 18. Diagonal 2 can be found by using the Pythagorean theorem. So I've kind of already written them out for you. So if we're using on this one, this triangle right here, and this triangle right here for this one, I have to add these together to get our diagonal 2. Okay, so 9 times 9 is 81. So I have 81 on both of those. We don't know our b squared. 15 times 15 is 225. And 41 times 41 is 1,681. Because we have a leg and a hypotenuse, or if you're looking at it in the algebraic way, we have numbers on either side of the equation, we have to subtract our 81. So we have b squared equals 225 minus 81, which is 144. And b squared equals 1,600. Last step, always take the square root. So the square root of 144 is 12, and the square root of 1,600 is 40. So this distance right here is 12, and this one was 40. So I needed to add them together to get the full diagonal. So 52. So now I can find the area. 1/2 times 18 times 52. So it equals 468. When I go to find perimeter, one thing about the kite is that we know that the sides that are adjacent to each other will be congruent. So the smaller parts of the kite will be congruent to each other, whereas the larger part will be congruent to itself. So that means we have 2 sides that are 15 and 2 sides that are 41. So all I have to do is add those together. So we have 15 plus 15 plus 41 plus 41. So 15 times 2 And 41 times 2. So it equals 112. All right, last but not least, we have a trapezoid. Okay, so the area of a trapezoid is just base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2 times the height. Do this part first. Add the bases first, then divide it by 2, and then multiply that number by the height. Perimeter is just adding all the sides. So base 1 here is 8, base 2 is 12. No, it does not matter. These are interchangeable. Like base 1 and base 2 can be changed out. The height is 7. Remember, the height has to be perpendicular. Okay, so that 7 is perpendicular. So now we can find the area. So base 1, which is 8, plus base 2, which is 12, divided by 2, and then we'll multiply by 7. So 8, like I said, we're going to add our bases first. So 8 plus 12, which is 20. Then we're going to divide by 2. Well, 20 divided by 2 is 10. And then we do 10 times 7, which is 70. All right. And when we want to find the perimeter, we would just add up all the sides, but it doesn't give us the length of the legs. So we are not going to find the perimeter for this one. All right. Bye, guys.